In this video, we are going to start the third module in our course, that is statistics or statistical inference. So far, whatever we have studied is the theory of probability and stochastic processes. Now we will try to apply this theory that we have studied to a classical problems in statistics. In order to do this, we need to recollect some things, that is, we need to know what do I mean by an experiment, what do I mean by a probability space. Then the key milestone of this probability is central limit theorem, which you have already seen, central limit theorem, and then law of large numbers. So there are two forms of law of large numbers. In that you have seen weak law of large numbers, which will suffice for our purposes. So we will study law of large numbers. These two you have already seen. What does the central limit theorem and how does the central limit theorem and law of large number differ? If you want to make this particular conclusion, then you generally start with x1, x2, xn. These are IID random variables, independent and identically distributed, with distribution f, x and associated parameter. We will confine those parameters in the vector called theta. Okay, so I have a sequence of random variables x1, x2, xn, and we ask some questions about this sequence. What happens to this sequence when n becomes very large? These two theorems, typically law of large numbers and central limit theorem, come to our aid and say that if I consider the average of this sequence, that is 1 over n summation over I equal to 1 to n xi, which we define as xn bar, right? And this particular xn bar, we ask a question, what are the typical features of xn bar? So in that case, if they are IID, come from f theta, or if it is density, if it is a discrete random variable, it will come from px theta. Okay, so whether it is discrete or continuous, we don't worry about them. We continue our exercise and we ask question, okay, if this xn bar behaves in this manner, then law of large number actually tells you that this particular thing converges to expected value of x. What does this mean? What does this x means? The x, which means there is a random variable x which follows fx theta if it is continuous, or px theta, which is if it is discrete, right? It converges to this, and this x is actually identical to x1, any of the x1, x2, xn, and this convergence we study in probability, or you write here in probability, and then we say this is weak law of large numbers. So what does this theorem give? This theorem actually gives what is the center of mass of this average, or center of mass of the distribution of average. Okay, then comes the next theorem, that is central limit theorem, which actually tells you that if you consider this sequence and it has finite moments, like expected value of x is finite and variance of x is finite. Here also, in the first case also, I have implicitly assumed that both of one is finite. You don't require variance over here, but here you will require variance. If this is the case, and expectation of x is represented by mu and variance of x is represented by sigma square, then what happens is you can write this particular transformation x1, x2, xn as either Sn, which is equal to summation over I equal to 1 to n xi, and you can talk about the distribution of Sn without knowing much about the distribution of xi's, and you can say that Sn minus n mu upon variance of Sn, that is n times sigma square. So square root of that will be sigma times root n. Okay, this particular thing will follow normal 0 1, or this particular thing will converge to normal 0 1. This is what our central limit theorem or CLT states. This statement comes from weak law of large numbers, and now using this, it gives us lot of freedom, in the sense you don't have to worry about the parameters of the distribution, because most of the distributions we know, the parameters are either functions of mean and variance, or they are actually mean and variance, right? So our problem becomes very simple, in the sense that because of these results, that is typically weak law of large numbers and central limit theorem, we can now talk about the sequence of IID random variables. So when we want to handle the problems in real life, whatever we are doing in theory, like if I take a random variable and if I say it follows that random variable follows exponential lambda, in real life the main problem is, even though I know the shape of the distribution, I don't know the exact value of lambda which the random variable is taking, and the realizations of the data are coming from that random variable. So the entire exercise now in statistics is to estimate the parameters of the distribution. So let me talk about estimation problems that we will handle in statistics. So estimation problems are of two types. Okay, so now our entire exercise is given a sequence of IID random variables x1, x2 and xn IID having some distribution f. We will not argue about what is the distribution, whether this distribution is okay or not. We will say that they have this distribution, and what we will argue for is the parameter theta that is given to you, and it is unknown. So we will work with theta being unknown. Now the question you may ask is, if theta is unknown, how will you estimate the probabilities? So what we will do here is we will do a reverse engineering. That is, we will take realizations of these random variables. These realizations will be denoted by small letters x1, x2 and so on up to xn. Okay. Now we know that based on our knowledge, this fx theta has some representation in terms of mean of the random variable. That is, I am talking about expected value of x. Now this expected value of x will invariably depend on one of the elements of theta. So in that case, I know the expected value of x using my relative frequency approach is nothing but x1 plus x2 plus xn upon n, and in this case I will equate this with expected value of x, that is the mean of the random variable, and I will get the value of, so let us take one example where it actually happens. Let us say I have a random variable x1, x2, xn, which is coming, these random variables as we are already familiar are coming from Bernoulli P family, correct? Now I know something about these random variables, right? So what I will do is I will actually consider the problem of estimation of this P. So I know x1, x2, xn follow Bernoulli P. They are coming from this random variable, and as you know, Bernoulli is just a two values game, 0 or 1. So let us go ahead and try to estimate this P. So what happens in this case is you will get some sequence of random variables which is 1 or 0 or 1, something like this you will get, right? And in that case, what you will do is, if you want to estimate this, you will actually take the sum. So let us call these realizations as x1, x2, so that we are uniform with this earlier notation. So all these random variables have realizations of the form x1, x2, xn. Then what you will do is, you will take x1 plus x2 and so on up to xn, and you will simply divide it by n, and you will claim that this should be equal to expected value of x. As I argued earlier, this x also must be from Bernoulli P family, and this will have expectation which is equal to p. And now what you have is the estimate of p coming from the values that are given to you in the data set or in the real life, whatever has happened. So this is how we will handle the problems in statistics. So our entire exercise now, when we are studying statistics, is we know the distribution of the random variable. We know x1, x2, xn are coming from IID setup and have distribution f if they are continuous, and have distribution px if they are discrete. Okay. Given this, we don't know what are the parameters or what values the parameters take, and our entire exercise in this statistical inference is knowing the parameter values, knowing the correct parameter values. So I have given you one example. Now let us go ahead and try to see what is estimation. So what I did just now is estimation, but let me give it more precisely. Estimation, and what are the type of problems that we will handle in this estimation. Okay. So when you talk about estimation, we will talk about the unknown parameters. Let us take some example. So for example, if I have been given x follows Poisson lambda, or z follows normal mu and variance sigma square, or let us say some random variable u following uniform over AB, and one more, let me take random variable v following say exponential lambda. So what are the parameters here? So in this case, in the first case, lambda is unknown. In the second case, mu is unknown, sigma square is unknown. In this case, where uniform random variable is considered, a and b are the parameters. Remember, they are not actually means or variances. In this case, if I consider a Poisson random variable, the expected value of x is lambda. So in this case, the parameter is directly the mean. Z following normal mu sigma square. Definitely normal distribution is characterized by two parameters, mean and variance. So this is mean and this is variance. So you don't have anything to do. But when you consider uniform random variable, remember uniform mean is a plus b by 2 if you are considering a continuous uniform. Now in this case, the parameters are not actually the mean and variance, but functions of mean and variance. In a similar manner, v following exponential lambda, depending on the parameterization you choose, this lambda can be mean or it may be reverse of the mean, that is function of lambda, function of mean, sorry. So we have all these kind of problems. So when we consider estimation problems, we typically handle whether we want to tell what should be the parameter lambda, or somebody else is giving me the parameter lambda and I want to testify whether the parameter given by him is correct or not. So in order to distinguish between them, we call the first problem as estimation, and in particular, if you are estimating a single value of the parameter, we will call that problem as point estimation problem, where we specify the value of lambda. Specify the value of lambda based on our data set available. Value of parameter. Okay. Now, if somebody else gives me the value of the parameter, I want to say whether this value is correct or not. That problem specification comes under hypothesis testing. That is, we will testify whether the value given by somebody is correct or wrong based on the data. So testify the values. Now, when you are handling random variables which are continuous, you will come across some problem when you are handling point estimation. That is, the classical problem that you come across is the probability of x being continuous random variable, x is equal to x is 0. So in that case, the point estimation will have no value. So the question can be twisted and asked, can you specify the lower range and upper range of the values? That is, can you specify the interval in which the parameter should lie with some high probability? So that problem, from point estimation we can actually derive the interval estimates, and that problem is called interval estimation. So the problems in classical statistics are typically divided into two categories. First category is estimation. In that we will see what is a point estimation and what is an interval estimation. And the second category is hypothesis testing. We will actually see how to testify the hypotheses that are given to us by somebody else. So this is the agenda of this particular module. Let us start with the actual problem, that is the estimation problem. So what is an estimation problem typically? So an estimation problem is a problem where you have been given a probabilistic model and in that model you know that the parameters are unknown. So your model is given to you, you don't know the parameters but you know the distribution. That means x follows, let us say p x small x theta, right? And some data is presented to you like x1, x2 and so on up to xn. This data is presented to you. You know all these x1, x2, xn's are realizations of this random variable x. This is what is known to you. Now the question is, how will you compute the values of unknown parameter theta? This is the question. Okay, so to handle this question, what is the most optimal approach that you will take up? Since I have this probability, this is the probability distribution, and I have these values. Given this probability distributions, I have realized these values in the data. Therefore, my natural job should be to maximize the probability given this particular data. To be precise, I want actually the maximum value, for theta of this probability distribution, correct? This x is symbolic, right? And I want for what value of theta, that is for what argument theta, this particular thing is maximum, and this I will refer to as theta hat, which is the estimator of theta. And because I am actually trying to maximize this particular value of theta, I will call this as maximum likelihood estimate. So I have done this in a very shortcut manner let me elaborate it a bit. So our problem was to find the unknown value of theta. This value is unknown, so I don't know this value. I have been presented with this data set x1, x2, xn, and now using this data I want to maximize this probability. And what value of the question that I will try to answer is what value of theta maximizes this probability given this data set. That is called maximum likelihood estimate. So let me reframe it in terms of the procedure. In particular, if I have been presented with data set, let us say I have all random variables x1, x2, xn that are coming from a distribution of this kind, and this theta, let us for argument's sake say it's not a vector, it's just a single value. Okay, I want to find that value of theta. So what I will do, when I consider these random variables, remember when we are studying statistics, we are always studying IID setup. What I will do is I will study their joint distribution. Now the joint distribution of these random variables will be given by p x1, x2, xn, x1, x2, xn of theta, and that will actually come from product of I equal to 1 to n p xi small xi of theta, because they are independent. So the joint distribution is nothing but the product of marginals. So this is what I will get. This particular function, now what I will do is I will treat this function as, so right now while studying probability we were treating this theta to be a fixed value and x1, x2, xn used to vary. There is a paradigm shift over here, that is we will no longer treat theta as a fixed value, or we will treat theta as a fixed value but we don't know it, so we can't do anything about it. So we will treat this particular left hand side as a function of theta. Treat this function of theta. When you treat this as a function of theta, what happens is this function you will call as likelihood function. Now this function is a likelihood function and it is treated as a function of theta. So all the values x1, x2, xn given to you are fixed. Why they are fixed? Because they are provided by the data. And now you are trying to find the maximum value of theta so that the probability given to this particular number is maximized. Okay. Now handling this particular product can be very tricky. So what do you do? So you simply use one interesting property of logarithmic function, that logarithmic function is 1 to 1. Therefore you consider a function which is ln of this joint distribution p x1 to xn, x1, x2, xn of theta, which will be nothing but simply a sum of all these marginal probabilities. And this particular thing will be called as log likelihood function. Now if you look at the function, this is nothing but a function of theta, and when you look at the examples that I have given you, like the examples which are listed here, invariably your theta will be continuous. For example, if that px is Poisson lambda, lambda be greater than 0, so positive half of real line is the value of lambda. Any value it can take, lambda greater than 0. Mean means mu belongs to R for normal random variables. Sigma square should be greater than 0. Uniform AB, it can be any real number. Exponential lambda is greater than 0. So invariably your parameter will be continuous continuous value or continuous function. So in this case, when you are talking about this, if the function is differentiable, that is this density is differentiable, then the classical tools of calculus are at our disposal, and we can use the classical tools of calculus. Typically we will differentiate this, equate it to 0, and then maximize the function or minimize the function. In this particular case we want argmax, that means I want the maximum value of px and I want what is an argument theta for that particular value. So in this case you differentiate this log like, so this is in a more sophisticated manner, you can write this as Lx vector theta, and this is like a log likelihood function. So you differentiate this dl by d theta and equate it to 0. Most of the times this will give the answer. It will create problems when your densities are not differentiable. In particular, it will create problems when you are handling a uniform random variates, where the density will create problem, or the range, the parameters actually are the extreme values of the distribution. So except for that, most of the time this method will work. dl d theta, you differentiate, equate it to 0, you will get some estimate. Now the estimate that you will get will invariably be the maximum likelihood estimate. The function will attain its maximum at that point, and that you will denote it as theta hat ml, which is equal to arg max over all thetas of this particular likelihood function, which I am writing as. Okay, so this is what our estimation procedure will look like, and this estimate that you will get is called maximum likelihood estimate. Now a key factor over here is, whatever we are doing for data given to us, data presented to us, we are not really using the data set as such, because these x1, x2, xn's that I mentioned here is the data set given to you. Had it been random variables, we would have used them as random variables themselves, right? So this is when you are actually presented with data. When you are not presented with data and still you don't know what is a parameter theta, and you want to estimate this theta in terms of xi's, then you can follow a similar procedure. Only thing is, instead of these small xi's, you will have capital Xi's. That's the only difference. And therefore, when I talk about these problems, we can actually talk about the random variable associated with this maximum likelihood estimator, which is capital theta hat of ml, and this is called maximum likelihood estimator. So notice my subtle difference between the maximum likelihood estimate and the estimator. So when I say something is an estimator, I am talking about the random variable associated with the estimate. When I say something is an estimate, then I am talking about the realized value of that estimate. Okay. So this is the nomenclature. Let me demonstrate this idea to you using one example. Let us take our favorite x1, x2, xn follow exponential theta. Okay. So by exponential theta I mean they have a density fx x theta equal to theta e raised to minus theta x. So this is the density, and you have x1, x2, xn coming from IID setup. and we want to talk about the maximum likelihood estimate of this particular thing. So let us go ahead and do whatever we want to do. So I want to find the value of theta. So essentially I want to find theta hat ml. In this case I want to find theta hat ml. That means I want to find argument max for theta such that this px theta will be replaced now with likelihood function, that is f x1 x2 xn of x1 x2 xn theta, which you can easily see to be equal to argmax of theta into product over I equal to 1 to n theta e raised to minus theta xi. Okay, so to be precise, I should write x greater than 0 and theta greater than 0 and 0 otherwise. So let me be very precise in writing the density. Okay, so I want to maximize this. So how will I maximize? Simple, you take this function which will be this joint, or you call this as L x bar under bar theta, which is equal to theta raised to n e raised to minus theta summation over I equal to 1 to n xi. Okay, so this is my likelihood function, and as usual this will be a differentiable function for theta greater than 0. So I will simply go ahead and take the log of this, natural log of this, and that will give me n times ln of theta minus theta summation over I equal to 1 to n xi. And now I will actually differentiate this. And what I will get is, so you just differentiate this with respect to theta, you will get and equate it to 0. So if you differentiate this with respect to theta, naturally you will get n by theta minus sigma xi is equal to 0, and therefore you will get n upon sigma xi I equal to 1 to n is the estimate that I will get for theta ml. Okay, yes, so this is my estimate. Now you realize the fact that I have never used what are the values of xi while delivering this expression. So even if these xi's are random variables, I can talk about this estimator, and therefore I will write capital theta hat of this ml, the maximum likelihood estimator, is n upon summation over I equal to 1 to n capital xi. So this is my estimator of theta. So this is one way to actually have the estimates, the probability estimates of the parameters for unknown parameters. So you can try your hand for normal or whatever I have mentioned here, or whatever examples I have mentioned here in this particular case. Okay, so x following Poisson lambda, you can try your hand. Z following normal mu and sigma square, what is your estimate? U following uniform AB, what is the estimate of A, what is the estimate of B? You can try your hand. V following exponential lambda. Let me give you a note of caution that uniform will not be very straightforward. We will handle it later in some cases, but all other estimates will be very straightforward. So you try your hand. I have shown you how to do it for exponential lambda. So you will try your hand and get the feeling of point estimates or estimators that we are trying to derive. In the next video we will actually try and see what are the properties these estimators should have, and whether the estimator that we have derived for exponential distribution is a good estimator or a bad estimator. So we will come back and see this in the next video.